Hello Exiles! I hope you've been enjoying PoE2's early access. I certainly have, even if it's got some rough edges here and there, but you know, that's to be expected from early access. I want to show off what I've been playing so far. I started Mercenary because how could I not? Machine guns, shotguns, snipers, we've never really had anything like that in PoE, so I really wanted to give that a shot. I took my time leveling through the campaign, just taking it all in, trying a bunch of different skills, and I didn't really feel the need to settle on a build until around Cruel Act 2. And after all that experimentation, what I landed on was shockburst and galvanic shards combo as a Gemling. Galvanic has very smooth clear, especially with Herald of Thunder, and shockburst is our single target. However, shockburst, as its name suggests, only does actual damage if the enemy is shocked or electrocuted. As far as options for applying shock, there are voltaic grenades, but they're a little clunky and I'm not really a fan. There's also plasma blasts, which does huge damage and easily shocks, but with the long charge time, it's not really that useful outside of a boss opener. And so I invest quite a bit into shock chance to be able to consistently apply it with galvanic. To that end, I'm using voltaic mark, which gives a good chunk of shock chance and also shock effect. It's worth noting that unlike PoE1, shock effect does not depend on the damage of the hit and is a static 20% which can be scaled. I end up getting around 50% shocks, which is pretty big. The other main reason why lightning damage in particular is strong here is because of the notable that gives lucky lightning damage with non-crits. This works the same way as in PoE1, it rolls your damage twice and chooses the higher result. With lightning's naturally high damage ranges, this ends up being up to about 30% more damage. Now, our crossbows mainly have physical damage that gets converted, but they still have high enough damage ranges for this to work. There's also heft support, and especially Ryslathas coil is a really big multiplier. I didn't think these would work initially because of how conversion works in PoE2. If you convert Fizz to Lightning, for example, it no longer benefits from Fizz damage increases, so I didn't think the more maximum physical damage would work, but it actually does. You can check on the tooltip. I'm not sure if this is a bug or not. I'm not really clear on how this should interact, but for now, this is my best in slot belt. As for my ascendancy, I am a Gemling because I thought it was cool when I ascended. To be honest, the more I think about it, the more I feel Witch Hunter is the better choice overall, but you can't change your ascendancy, so I'm locked in. But of course, Gemling is still viable for this. As you can see, I'm making it work. The main benefit of Gemling for this build is to be able to ignore attribute requirements of gems. Voltaic Mark and Conductivity have very high dex and int requirements, which would need my whole tree and more attribute rolls on gear to satisfy. Instead, Gemling lets me put that all into strength, as well as doubling its effect to give me a total of 800 life. For my third node, I'm taking the 10 gen quality, which in this build is really just some quality of life, because none of my gems have super impactful quality stats. If or when I get the fourth point, it will probably be for the max res node. I don't need the extra skill slots, but just filling them with some random gems can get me up to 4 or 5 max res, which I think would go a long way considering the sparse defensive options currently in the game. Next steps for the build are to keep pushing red maps, hopefully take on some of the pinnacle bosses, but I'm also very tempted to just re-roll and try something else because there's just so much to experiment with. I don't know. Whatever I end up doing, I'll be posting it here, so if you're interested, consider subscribing. In the meantime, good luck out there, Exiles.